Right when you think home prices are going to start to decrease, they actually increase. Last month I reported that home prices fell, but this month not only did we increase from last month, but we actually increased from August pricing as well. So are we going to see that winter slowdown? What is going on? Let's go check it out. Hello, my name is Fyfe, your Calgary real estate agent. If you're looking at getting into the market, even in 2024, now is a great time to start preparing. Go ahead, book a call with the Zoom link in the description. I promise I'm pretty easy to talk to, and I'm very big on actually building up your foundation well in advance. So let's go check it out. So let's start this off like usual by reading what the Calgary Real Estate Board has written about current market conditions. Now, if you don't want to listen to me read, go ahead, pause the video, read it yourself, and go to the next chapter. Price gains continue in Calgary's real estate market as inventory remains low. October sales activity slowed over the last month in alignment with typical seasonal patterns. However, with almost 2,200 sales, levels were 17% higher than last year and amongst the highest levels reported for October. Sales activity has been boosted mainly through the gains in apartment condominium sales as consumers seek affordable housing options during this period of high interest rates. New listings also improved this month compared to last year, reaching almost 2,700 units, reflecting the highest October levels reported since 2015. And 2015 was a very interesting year. That's when oil prices tanked and a lot of people were trying to get out of the market. Despite gains, relatively strong sales prevented any significant shifts in inventory levels, which remained over 40% lower than levels traditionally available in October. Despite some recent improvements in new listings, supply levels remain challenging in our market. It will take some time to see shifts towards a more balanced conditions and ultimately more price stability. With the months of supply of 1.5 months, we continue to experience upward pressure on home prices. The unadjusted benchmark price in October reached $571,600, a gain over last month and nearly 10% higher than last October. This market is fascinating. Let's start to break it down and figure out what's going on. Now, I do like to bring up this graph because it is visually pleasing. The red line is the benchmark price, and you can see that last month we actually saw a small correction, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be the start for the stabilization over the winter months. Now, technically, we did increase past the October price point, or sorry, the August price point. It hasn't gained by much, but it's still a small increase nonetheless, meaning that communities and property types are still seeing price increasing as a whole. You can see that the inventory has stayed relatively flat and the sales are starting to decrease lower and lower. Now, we are still higher than October numbers of last year when it comes to sales, but our inventory has dropped quite a bit. So the market is still very tight. It is very important that you gain a game plan well in advance when you're getting into this market because it can be quite stressful. Now, on the bottom here, you'll see the benchmark attributes. This is for the entire city. Every single quadrant, every single property type is going to have different attributes. Now, the year-to-date sales numbers have been fascinating. You can actually see that we exceeded 2021. I wasn't sure if we were going to or not, but we have. We haven't beat 2022. You can see that the blue bar is actually the detached sales, and the detached sales have been quite a bit less than 2021 and 2022, where apartment sales have greatly increased, especially when you look at the size difference between 2021 and 2023. Now, this is interesting. I'm going to start touching on this more. This is the sales by price range in October. This just kind of gives you a general idea of how active certain price points are. You can see that the $400,000 to $500,000 price point is by far the most active and probably the most competitive. That's that affordable range. You can see that everything else is relatively on par with about 325 sales, where you can see a couple under 200,000 and then quite a few over $1 million. The biggest thing is not the sales, it's actually the inventory. I talk about that every single month, and this chart here is fascinating because you can see just how low the inventory has fallen, especially since 2018 peaks when the market was technically at its slowest. I got into real estate in 2017, and you can see my first 2 years were very, very slower. Now it's getting more and more competitive. So I'm very lucky to have this foundation to help advise clients in this crazy market. So let's start to break it down. This is the total residential price point for every single quadrant. Now, this just gives you a general overview of how much that quadrant will cost. So if you're looking in Northwest, you can see it's $613, where Southeast is $559. Now, obviously, both quadrants are going to have $1 million properties, but the properties in Southeast might be a little bit cheaper on average when you compare to the Northwest. Same thing goes with East versus the west. It's very interesting to see like a $300,000 difference between the two quadrants there. Now, this is the Calgary Real Estate Board and what they've written about each individual property type. I'm not going to read it. Pause the video, read it on your own if you like. Shameless plug, if you are looking for more information, please go ahead, book a call. The Zoom link is in the description. I promise I'm pretty easy to talk to, and I will give you a no BS answer. There's a lot of investors reaching out to me asking me for advice, and I'm telling about 90% of them not to invest in this market. It does not make sense. So if you're one of those people, just be prepared for that answer. Now, let's start to look at the pricing. Now, we talked about the total residential price point at $571,600. That's actually increased almost $48,000 from last month or 12 months ago. The detached is almost at $700,000. The semi-detached is at $630,000. The row townhouse is at $425,000, and the apartment price is at $316,000. Now, I'm going to actually pause my little heater here because it is winter and this office is quite cold. But you can see that all of the price points have actually increased quite a dramatic amount from last year, especially when you start to look at the detached market and the semi-detached market. 73,000, 70,000 year over year increases. Absolutely insane market. Now, this is quite interesting. This is the benchmark price for each individual property type and each individual quadrant. This just gives you a very fast overview of how much certain things are in certain quadrants, right? So as an example, if we look at the detached market, you can see that the city center as well as the west have the same price point for their benchmark price. But when you actually look at their attributes, the attributes are very different. The city center are going to have a lot older homes, and the West Calgary are going to have a lot of newer homes. So when you see these price points, make sure that you overlap the attributes for that. This price is really good, but what do you actually get for that price? And I break that down in my individual property type videos, so make sure to check those out. This here is the months of supply. Now, the months of supply is also very important to know because you need to know how active or how competitive a certain area is going to be for the property type that you're looking at. As an example, you can see that the city center has over 2.5 months for the detached as well as the semi-detached market. So if you are looking for a specific property type in a specific community or a specific area, it's very important to know how active it's going to be. As an example, you can see the townhouse market, everything is near 1 month of supply or even half a month of supply, which is super, super competitive. So if you're curious of what your house is worth in this market, go ahead and put your home address into my AI software where it spits out an instantaneous valuation. It is a very interesting tool. All of the information is going to come to me directly. I'm not going to market you like crazy, but I will call you and introduce myself. It is a very interesting software, and it's actually proving to be very useful for a lot of homeowners who are genuinely curious of what their home could sell for, or maybe they want to leverage that asset for other opportunities. So go ahead, click the link. It is a very interesting portal. Go ahead, put your home address in there. I will call, I will introduce myself, but if you're not looking to sell, don't worry about it. That's totally fine. I'm here to help. So, moving along, this is the microeconomic outlook for every single property type in every single quadrant. I'm not going to dive into this into great detail because I'm going to break it down individually in my property type videos coming out over the next week. Now, I brought it up at the beginning. Did every quadrant see an increase? Technically, no. You can see that detached homes in Southeast saw a small decrease. The apartment sector in the Southeast saw a small decrease. The semi-detached market in the Southeast saw a small decrease, as well as the townhouse sector in the Southeast also saw a small decrease. So what's going on in the Southeast? Couldn't tell you. We got to dive into that a little bit deeper. On the flip side, you can see that some of the apartments in the, let's just give the east, saw a pretty big increase, as well as the semi-detached homes in city center. So there is some ebbs and flows, gives and takes all across the city. So it really does make sense to dive into this in a lot more detail than just looking at the total residential picture. You really want to dive into your personal situation. So where's Calgary going to go? This is a very fascinating question. If you look at the last 2 years, so going into the winter of 21-22 and then the winter 22-23, you can see that the pricing somewhat stabilized, and then as soon as January hit, the pricing increased. I would imagine that's going to happen again this year. That's my prediction. Last winter, you can see that we actually saw some gnarly decreases right from the summer all the way into the Christmas holidays. And then as soon as January hit, we took off. Now, with this market and these current conditions, I don't really foresee any price reductions. Maybe a little bit of stabilization, but not so much a price decrease. There's just way too much demand and not enough inventory in this market for me to think that the overall price is going to decrease. I would imagine in 2024, the pricing is going to increase steadily all throughout the year. Once again, I do not foresee a market slowdown anytime soon unless something big happens, something major in our economy shifts. Calgary starts to see a decrease. Obviously, a lot of more markets over just Calgary are going to see a decrease, but that's kind of my prediction. So if you have any questions, reach out and ask. I really hope you got some value from this video. Hashtag I made it if you made it all the way to the end. Thank you for all my awesome supporters. I really hope that you get a lot of information from this and not just some of the BS stuff that you see on the internet. So let me know your thoughts. If you want to go over more information in more detail, comment that below. Let me know what I can do on my next month's report. So thank you very much. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.